Hey, I'm looking for Skywalker. He had a kid with him? Is that a bench? How long will I be waiting?
Last year I made a video about the best small businesses to run in Star Wars, and I think it's time to revisit that. I have received some comments with great suggestions and come up with some more ideas myself that I think you will like. There's no need to beat around the bush, so let's dive right in. I'm Joey from Radio Free Coruscant, and these are 5 more small businesses to run in Star Wars. Mechanic. Not everyone who owns a ship is friends with someone like Chewbacca who can fix it for them when it breaks. That's why being a mechanic can be a very lucrative career in Star Wars. There are billions of spacecraft throughout the galaxy, all needing regular maintenance and many often needing emergency repairs. Solo pilots or captains who don't have a mechanic on staff can hire you to come to them to make any necessary repairs, updates, or modifications to their ships, droids, or equipment. You will of course need to learn a lot about engineering first, but once you do, you will have a job that guarantees you income for as long as you want it. One comment on the original video suggested being a droid mechanic, which would be an especially good choice as you would be able to keep a supply of droid parts to use for repairs on hand much more easily than you would ship parts. There is much less variety between droids than there is between ships, and droid parts are of course much smaller and easier to store. Basically any ship would be suitable for this task as long as it has some amount of storage space for your tools and any parts you want to keep in stock or need to pick up along the way. But the one that I would use for this is the WTK-85A Interstellar Transport. This 21-meter-long scout ship is fast and incredibly reliable, with one even able to start up and fly after sitting unused and exposed in the desert on Pasaana for decades. The ship was designed for a solo pilot, but had seating for a co-pilot and passengers if you would prefer to work with a team, and most of the ship's interior is a big open box with loads of room for tool storage, a workshop, and equipment. I don't know if anyone used my RPG ideas from the last video, but I did get a lot of comments talking about them, so I'll continue that in this one. Having your party be a team of traveling mechanics opens the door to a pretty wide variety of encounters. Obviously, there are loads of ways to make just showing up and rescuing someone with a broken hyperdrive lead to interesting plot points, but you could also have your party get a call to repair an Imperial officer's private yacht and secretly sabotage it instead, or install a spy device in a wealthy crime lord's protocol droid to gather intel you can sell. The possibilities aren't quite endless, but there are a lot of them. Traveling Doctor. Now you might be saying, don't I have to spend hundreds of thousands of credits and 6 to 12 years to go to medical school and then get hired at a hospital to be a doctor? How can that be a small business? Well, the answer is no. You just need to spend around 8,000 credits on a 21B surgical droid and an FX series medical assistant droid, and you are well on your way to becoming a traveling doctor. This was another comment suggestion, and it seemed like a great choice. Take your ship around to small colonies and settlements around the Outer Rim that may not have access to a high-quality medical facility, stay there for a few weeks to offer your droid's services to the locals, and then move on to the next place on your route. There isn't really any particular ship or even type of ship that would be more suitable than others for this business, but I know I wouldn't want to show up to a clinic operated out of a grimy old box truck, so you don't want something industrial like a light freighter unless you really clean it up nice like Lando's Millennium Falcon. For my money, I'd choose the GX-1 short hauler. At 37 meters long, it has quite a bit of internal space to make into a waiting room and 1 or 2 med bays, with space left over to live in. You could potentially even use the auxiliary shuttle as an ambulance of sorts, although in most cases it would probably be easier to just take the whole ship to the patient. Any larger yacht would probably do nicely as well. Unfortunately, I don't really have any suggestions for your game table for this one. I suppose since the real doctors are the medical droids and you're just their chauffeur, you could just use this as a plot device to take your party to various locations and get into various situations. Take a bribe from a crime lord to do a little malpractice on his rival, or search for an ingredient to make a cure for an obscure illness afflicting a remote outpost. I guess I lied, I had some suggestions after all. Resort Owner. The scope of this one is perhaps a little larger than the others on this list or the previous, but I was inspired by the errant adventure I mentioned a couple weeks ago. However, I'm picturing something more luxurious for tourists rather than a port for criminals, like a cruise ship. Don't ask me how I can justify putting a cruise ship on a list of small business ideas. I can, I just can't tell you how because it's a secret. The most obvious option for this would be the MPO 1400 Pergil class star cruiser that was the setting for the defunct Galactic Star Cruiser in real life. However, that would be like recommending a cargo ship to carry cargo. It's the right answer, obviously, but it isn't a fun or creative one. Instead, I'd like to recommend a Vesper-type cruiser. This beautiful New Republic warship would make an excellent cruise liner. At about 1,000 meters long, it has a lot of space to convert into passenger cabins, dining opportunities, entertainment venues, shopping centers, and more. The Vesper is at least partially inspired by the big Mon Calamari cruisers, which were originally civilian cruise ships before being refitted for combat, so surely the reverse would be possible for this ship. It has 4 hangar bays to house landing craft to pick up passengers or even the passengers' personal ships if you're marketing to rich people. It also has a large cutout section at the bow that is just begging to have a huge window installed in it for your guests to hang out near. Put a food court or luxury lounge there or something. There are only 2 problems. You will need to hire hundreds of staff to run a cruise ship of this size, and of course you will have to somehow get your hands on one. Perhaps there is a civilian model on the market, or maybe these ships will be stripped of their weapons and sold to civilians at the end of their service life. I would say you could just steal one, but we're going for a classier resort here, so that probably isn't going to cut it. Sadly, I don't have any adventure ideas for this either. It seems well beyond the scope of your average TTRPG party. I suppose if you like the idea enough to base the whole campaign around it, your party could be workers on such a vessel and get up to no good that way, but I don't have the skills or knowledge to help you with that level of planning. It seems like it could be a fun premise though, lots of potential for spying and smuggling. Tour Guide. For a much smaller scale version of that operation, you could be a tour guide. Find some local landmarks and a passenger ship with big windows, memorize an hour-long script of the history and trivia about those places, and overcharge tourists to go and see them. Pretty easy, all things considered. I would prescribe something along the lines of a Star Commuter 2000 or a U-55 orbital load lifter for this business. Both are fairly small at 15 and 22 meters long respectively, which means you can weave in and out of airspeeder traffic with ease and land pretty much anywhere. Of the two, the U-55 has nearly triple the passenger capacity of the Star Commuter at 60 versus 24. It also has probably 5 times as much window space to offer your customers a commanding panoramic view of the local sights. I won't dwell on it too long, as I covered it pretty extensively earlier this summer in my video about the best ships to make into a camper. You can find out more about it there. Like the cruise ship, there aren't really any good plot hooks for an RPG campaign that involve being a tour guide, at least not that I can think of. It's pretty much a solo operation, so it isn't well suited to that kind of collaborative storytelling. Still, it would be an easy and rewarding business to run for someone in the Star Wars galaxy. Construction. The last business on our list is construction. This is a little vague, but there is a lot of variety in the construction industry, and I didn't want to limit it to just one type. I am envisioning something small-scale, like building residential housing in smaller mid- and outer rim planets, but if your business is successful, you can expand it to monumental proportions on planets like Coruscant. What I would recommend to start out with, though, is to get a light or medium freighter to carry construction supplies and a team of organic workers and construction droids. The ant droids we see Luke using to build his Jedi temple on Ossus would be a great starting point. They must be fairly cheap since he has so many, and they look like they would pack down fairly compactly for storage. Pit droids or other repair droids could be potentially useful as well. You can upgrade to larger and more sophisticated construction droid models like the 7Z series if your business does well. For your ship, I think the VCX-100 class light freighter would be a great starting point. It is about 44 meters long and can carry a large amount of cargo both internally and externally, as well as 4 crew and 6 passengers. This means it has room for all the materials, droids, and workers you will need for this size of operation. It is also very rugged and reliable, ensuring it will be safe at any worksite. The auxiliary craft it comes with would also be a valuable asset to your company. It would allow workers to leave the job site for supplies without taking the whole ship and everything in it away from the other workers. The VCX-100 is one of the best ships its size on the market no matter what you use it for, and I guarantee you will be happy with your purchase. Another ship that could be of use to you is the Y-45 Armored Transport Hauler. This ship will allow you to carry around heavy machinery like excavators or bulldozers. Alternatively, you could combine this ship's role with the VCX-100 and get a Gozanti cruiser instead. The Imperial version is capable of carrying 2 AT-ATs, so it should handle construction equipment with ease. While we are on the subject of stolen Imperial ships, the Zeta-class cargo shuttle could be useful as well, as it is used very extensively in Imperial construction operations. However, my money is still on the VCX. This doesn't seem like a great career for characters in a role-playing game, but it would give you a reason to travel from place to place. You land on one planet, put your droids to work building someone's house or shop, and happen upon some kind of adventure while you're there. Perhaps Jawas steal your tools and you have to track them down and steal them back, or you uncover a buried secret while digging the Foundation. It would be an unusual premise for a campaign, but I think you could have a lot of fun with it. And even if you weren't fully committed to playing construction workers, because let's face it, that's pretty boring in a universe of smugglers, Jedi, and starfighter pilots, it still gives you a plot reason to travel from place to place and find a variety of situations to play through. And those were 4 more small and 1 large businesses you can run in Star Wars. It was pretty hard to come up with RPG suggestions for these, so I almost scrapped that segment, but I think I came up with a few ideas that someone could potentially use. Let me know if you plan to use any of these in a campaign or a fanfiction, and what other ideas you may have for a part 3. But that's all I've got, so make sure to subscribe and I will see you next week. RFC.